Hi ladies. Okay, I'm so excited. So today is going to be day one for us. So what I wanted to do is just introduce you to what clean eating basics are. So I'm going to go through 5 things. I listed them in the description that I put up for you. But basically I want to introduce you to each one of these 5 concepts today just a little bit. And I want you to understand that this is not meant to be some crazy diet that we're gonna hate and that we were not gonna actually implement. What we really wanna do is understand the why behind certain things. So I call it the why behind the how. And the reason for that is so that we will start implementing those. We know why we wanna look for those things and look forward to those things. And then over the long term, you can make lifestyle changes with it as opposed to just cutting, carbs or cutting out calories or whatever else, whatever keto. I mean, I like carbs, so I'm not going keto. I don't know about you, but this is not going to be a keto thing. I do, though, think that everybody should understand that we need protein. So there you go. Okay, so the 5 things that I want to go over today, I'll just go over them quickly and then I'll get into a little bit more detail, is number 1, eat cleaner. So more whole foods. So what I mean by that is reduce how much artificial flavors, artificial colors, artificial anything that's added to foods, additives, right? We need to reduce how much preservatives are in our foods because our gut still has to go in and deal with those. So when I say whole foods, I mean as close to their original form as possible, as often as possible. So again, I don't mean like don't ever eat anything but raw food. I don't mean it like that. I literally mean let's start focusing on introducing more whole foods into our diet so that we can slowly start pushing out the stuff that's not serving us. So the stuff that's not adding health. Because you're either adding health or you're taking it away with every single thing that you put in your mouth. And I love wine and pizza. So I always say choose your toxins wisely. You know what I mean? Okay, so number 1, eat more whole foods. Fresh fruits and vegetables, amazing. Lean, grass-fed and finished or pasture-raised or wild-caught type stuff. That's what's on that list that I gave you guys for the groceries. That's just a really good, just a good guideline to follow for any of the meats that you're having because they're closer to what a whole food should be and what our ancestors would eat, which is wild meat or as close to as possible instead of factory farmed everything, because everything that goes into those farms or feedlots is totally different than what we would have eaten for nutrition a while ago. So that brings me to number 2. Number 1, eat more whole foods. Number 2, increase your nutrient intake, whatever you want to call it. So basically what that means is we need to have more vitamins and minerals literally going into our body, which in our kit that we got, we have amazing supplements. So if you haven't seen it yet, there are 3 supplement containers in that pack. Called the Lifelong Vitality Pack, and there are 3 supplements in there, right? So we've got the Microplex VMZ, which is your multivitamin, 22 vitamins and minerals. Essentials, the ones that your body can't produce on their own, you need to add them in your diet. So simple way to get that is through supplementing. Alpha CRS is a cellular renewal complex. Our body's made up of a bazillion cells, so it's kind of important that they're healthy because they have to regenerate and turn over all the time. And then our omegas are our healthy fats, which we need for anti-inflammation, basically. So we have tons of okay, I'm just going to keep going through and then I'll get into these things. So number 1, eat more whole foods. Number 2, increase your nutrient uptake, which is going to already happen if you're adding more whole foods and taking your supplements daily. Most people will notice within 4 or 5 days that they start to feel different, less of the crash and stuff like that in the afternoon from taking their pills. I totally feel it personally with my own mental health, so maybe you'll start to notice something like that. But often with these kinds of changes, we actually won't notice them as much until we reintroduce crap or stop taking our pills for a few days, that kind of stuff. So just know that this is a slow and steady way to health as opposed to a magic pill that is like a Red Bull that makes you have wings instantly, right? Which is not good for you. Don't drink Red Bull. Okay, so number 1, eat more whole foods. Number 2, increase your nutrient intake. Number 3, remove inflammatory foods. So this is going to be a great topic for us because I know, Leah, you mentioned that you have inflammation stuff going on, so this will be really good for you. So what by inflammatory foods? I mean allergenic, so either allergy or a food intolerance or sensitivity. I mean addictive foods, things that give your body that like instant rush, but they're actually terrible for you. So a lot of that has to do with sugar. And then acidic foods. So I'm not talking about like a lemon that we squeeze that we eat that's acidic. I'm talking about foods that are acid forming in our body. The number one acid forming food that we all typically eat a lot of is dairy and also coffee. So coffee, it's not the caffeine that's bad for you. It's actually the fact that it's acid forming in your body. So when you have too much acid, a whole bunch of things go sideways on you. Okay, so that's number 4. So eat clean, so whole foods, nutrition, adding nutrient uptake. Number 3, removing inflammatory foods. And again, I don't mean like don't ever eat a piece of bread or a bagel ever again in your life. I mean, let's get to a place where typically we don't have inflammatory foods, which are gluten, dairy, soy, refined sugars, GMO corn. Those are the big 5. Eggs for me. A lot of people have problems with eggs. But they're like the top allergens, so you know what they are, and then you got to figure out if your body's reacting to them or not. And the only way to do that is to cut them out for a while and then reintroduce them. So that's number 3. So balance your blood sugars, number 4. And so what do I mean by that? So many of us burn ourselves out. Literally our bodies burn out on adrenal fatigue, which goes to thyroid problems next typically. And so what happens is we literally are spiking our glycemic index in our body, which means our blood sugar is spiking all the time, which is putting our body in a constant stress mode state. So then you have cortisol being released all the time, and then you have insulin response kicking in, and that's just like a constant battle in your body. And your body can do absolutely anything and can heal you from almost anything, but it can't when it's literally in fight or flight response mode constantly, right? So we'll get into that more, but balancing your blood sugar, which means eating lower glycemic index foods more often. So again, it's not that you can't ever have a piece of cheesecake or can't ever have, some sugar or, whatever. But we have to get into the mode where we choose lower glycemic index foods more often as our staples in our diet, so that when we do have the little bits of other things that come in there, like desserts or whatever you want to, if you ever want to have a specialty coffee or whatever, then you're okay because it only happens once in a while instead of constantly. Number 5 is supporting organs of elimination. So our body, again, has the ability to do amazing things for us. That's what it's built to do. But when we overrun our body with toxins all the time, literally it can't keep up. And then it spills into other things, and that's another place where we're going to find inflammation coming in. So 4 organs of elimination are liver, kidneys, the intestines, and your skin is actually your largest detox organ because it will literally sweat out toxins, which is why, people stink after they go out and get wasted, because they're sweating out toxins out of their body. Okay, so those are the 5. So increase whole foods, increase nutrient uptake, which is supplements that we already have in our kit, which is easy, removing inflammatory foods, balancing our blood sugar, and supporting our organs of elimination. The best thing we can do for our organs of elimination is to stop putting so much crap in so that they can catch up. So just a brief analogy on what that actually looks like is, imagine a bathtub where you have your faucet coming in with all of the water, and then at the bottom there's the drain, right? So usually with a bathtub, you can't, like, the drain should be like able to, what am I talking about? The water coming in should be able to drain out at the same rate, basically. Otherwise the bathtub starts to fill up, right? So basically that's what's happening in your body with toxins. So we're getting that from the air we breathe, from the stress response that's in our body, from the environment that we're in, from our products that we're putting on our body, from whatever's in our house that we're smelling every day, which could be cleaners, could be candles, could be whatever. That's why we're getting diffusers with essential oils. And all of these things, like the shampoo you use, the body wash you use, like everything slowly but surely adds up over time into your body because it can be absorbed and go through. And so eventually that bathtub starts to fill up because we're also eating a lot of preservatives. We're eating tons of processed foods that have all kinds of additives in them. And we don't think it's a big deal because we don't realize how much we're actually intaking. So that's the problem, is your body is built to get rid of that stuff, but not when it's coming in constantly. So the biggest thing you can do to support your organs of elimination is stop putting so much junk in so it can catch up and do its job. Now, a lot of us have problems that are starting to show up in different areas, and it's because we've done 30 some odd years of this stuff on our bodies. So now we need to, or however old you are, generally speaking, at some point, somebody's body says, okay, that's enough. I got to change something. So that can happen when you're 7 months, 7 years, 37, 70. But at some point your body will say, because everybody's different, every body is different. At some point your body will say, no, you need to change something. So think about how you feel right now. when you think about your nutrition and your body, think about how you actually feel day to day. Do you feel great energy? Do you feel emotionally strong? Do you feel strong, literally physically? Do you feel happy? Do you feel like you've got lots of jam? Get up and go. Are you, like just think about how your body's feeling, and then think about, okay, what hurts or what aches or what kind of keeps reminding me of something? And so that's your body's way of talking to you and telling you like, hey, I don't feel good today. Well, maybe that has something to do with what I ate or drank yesterday, right? So you really want to start to pay attention to what your body is telling you, because it will talk to you constantly. But the problem is that we get to a point where we kind of numb that stuff and we ignore it. And then eventually, if it's ignored for long enough, it turns into something bigger, and it could be a different symptom that shows up, but you had the warning signals all along. Does that make sense? So what I kind of wanted to do is just give you that brief overview of exactly what we're going to dive into this week. I have like a month or more worth of content that I could teach about these 5 things. So what I want to know from you guys down below in the comments is, please let me know which one of those 5 things you're most interested in learning about, and what types of things about that you're interested in learning about. And then I can start to kind of tailor what I'm talking about this week to you guys specifically, because I have all kinds of knowledge in my head and I want to share it with you, but I don't know exactly where you're at. So I think what I'll do today is talk just a little bit about inflammatory foods. Just because Leah had mentioned that she's got issues and said like, I don't even know what inflammatory foods are, right? So that's super typical, super normal. So let's just go through the 5 top ones really quickly. So gluten, dairy, soy, refined sugar, and GMO corn. So if you were to look at your diet right now, and you know what? Everybody says like take a food journal, but seriously, like write down 3 days worth of food, 2 days during the week and one of your typical weekend days, what you eat and drink every single day for all those 3 days on a normal basis. Like I'm not talking about at Christmas. I'm not talking about on your best health day. I'm talking like what's a typical diet that you're following. And most of us will find gluten, dairy, refined sugars, soy, and corn every single day in our food. And so what happens is when you have a food that goes in that's inflammatory, what it means is, picture a barbecue brush and the inside of your wrist, like that really nice soft skin. So you take a barbecue brush and you glide it down just once, and you get like a little bit of a scratch, right? And then you do it again and you get a little deeper scratch. And now it's starting to get a little bit pink. Then you scratch it again, and then you scratch it again. And if you did that 10 times, now it's going to turn red. And now you're going to be scraping inside of the little scrapes, so it's going to go deeper. And that's the kind of response that happens inside of our digestive tract. So what I'm talking about is inside your intestines, we put inflammatory foods in there which create little tiny micro cuts like a barbecue brush would on our skin. And we're doing it over and over and over. So we're talking breakfast, lunch, dinner, probably 2 snacks a day. And on the weekends, we're probably even adding in a late snack, or even on normal days. And most of the time, every single one of your snacks and meals will include gluten, dairy, soy, refined sugar, and GMO corn. One of those things at least, every single meal of your day. So what we want to do is start reducing how much inflammatory foods. Again, I'm not saying you can't ever go out with the girls for a cheese board with bread. That's not what I'm saying, because I totally love that stuff. But if we're eating less bread and less cheese and less wine, then when we go out for that stuff, our body's like, no problem, right? So it's about reducing how many times a day you're actually exposing that inside skin to that barbecue brush, which is what's happening inside of our body. And so here's the next part about that. When you're eating inflammatory foods on a regular basis, not every one person is going to react the same way. Some people are going to have skin issues show up. Some people are going to have mood, emotional, mental problems, right? When was the last time like you ate like a sandwich or something, or went out for lunch and had bread or pasta? This is the typical one that happens. And then like 45 minutes later, you're just like your battery just ran out and you just want to go have a nap. That's because it's something that you ate, which is typically gluten, or dairy, depending, on the person, or both, where you literally goes in and it's scraping the inside of your arm with that barbecue brush. And so all of your blood is now rushing to your stomach to try to go help heal that, because you're cutting it. Micro tears is what they're called. Little micro tears everywhere inside of your intestines. And so your body's literally pulling blood from all of its other places. So that's why you feel that, because all the little soldiers, all the blood flow is being called to that area to try to go help fight back and heal that. But if that is happening constantly, that's why we're running into total fatigue all the time, right? Then what you're doing is you're exhausted, so now you're pumping coffee or energy drinks, and you're literally having to like psych yourself up and run on adrenaline to keep yourself going. And when you run on adrenaline all the time, that stress response is happening in your body constantly, and that's what happens with your adrenals. They get fatigued and you burn out, and then your thyroid gets affected next. Those are so typical in women, right? Adrenal fatigue, because we do 45 things constantly. We don't take care of ourselves nutritionally. Then we're not sleeping well because we have all this inflammation happening in our body. Sometimes it shows up on our skin. Sometimes it shows up. Hi, buddy. No, honey, he didn't come. Dad's downstairs. Go see him. I'm just doing a live video.
Why?
He just woke up from a nap. Sorry, guys. Do you want to come say hi?
Why?
Oh, I don't know. Brett didn't come. Anyway, sorry. So sometimes it shows up with sore stomach. I used to always complain to the doctor, I have like sore intestines, and they would do ultrasounds and they would do whatever, and they would say, no, there's nothing wrong. And I would say, yeah, but it like literally, like even now as an adult, this happened when I was a teenager, and they would push all over my abdomen, and they would say, and I would say, ow, that hurts, that hurts, that hurts. And they would say, yeah, but we've tested it and there's nothing wrong. Nothing shows up on the blood tests. Well, guess what? I was eating all of those foods that are inflammatory, and once I was an adult, I found out from a naturopath which ones I'm actually sensitive to, and as soon as I cut them out, that stomach pain is completely gone. So my kids can literally jump on my stomach again, and it doesn't hurt as long as I stay off of those things. So for me, those are dairy, like really bad with dairy, not the older stuff. As the protein ages, it can, like cheese, older cheeses and stuff like that is okay. But milk, yogurt, cottage cheese, all things I was eating on a daily basis kill me. So I get super sneezy, and I also get super sore intestines. And so now I know that that's inflammatory foods and how they react in my body. Some people get really bad eczema. But here's the key, guys. You could have all these different symptoms happening. Sometimes it's like depression, sometimes it's anxiety. Everybody reacts differently. But generally speaking, I've never met anybody who went in and took out those 5 inflammatory foods over 2 or 3 weeks and then didn't feel better. So I think it's something, I know it's hard to do, but take it 1 or 2 of them at a time then. If that's how if you're having a hard time, even considering pulling out all those foods at once, then just take them slow. Take them 2 at a time. And the other thing, Leah, you also asked me about, you're having a really hard time feeling full because you took out gluten and dairy, which is super typical. Because when we're first cutting out foods, we feel like, well, what am I going to be able to eat then? I've been there 1,000 times. Like, I totally get it. So what you need to do is focus on protein and healthy fats and replacing whatever kind of things you would normally eat with gluten, just with alternatives. So I love bread, for example. There's a great one from Costco. It comes in a 2-pack, and it's from the Little Northern Bakehouse. They have great gluten-free bread. And so the only thing I ever do with that is I toast it, because it tastes great once it's toasted. I don't love it when it's just plain. But go find yourself a couple of gluten-free options. So rice crackers are great. You can, anything, there's so many different ways to get gluten-free products. Make sure that you're looking at what you're buying that's gluten-free though, because it doesn't mean it's healthy, but I can totally help you with that. But pasta, go get quinoa pasta or brown rice pasta or any kind of gluten-free pasta. I like the blue Catelli box that they have at almost all grocery stores in Canada. It's gluten-free, and so it has corn in it. That's the only problem with that one, but I don't seem to react to corn, but I've played a lot with my own diet. But again, if you're wanting to try just gluten and dairy, that's the ones you want to trigger for now, then what you need to do is just cut those 2 out, and I can totally help you with more substitutes. That's just kind of some quick examples. But dairy, milk alternatives are easy, yogurt alternatives are easy. So where is it that you feel like you're not getting filled up? Because if you're putting solid lean proteins or plant-based proteins, and it's going to take a little while for your body to get used to it, because if it's used to running on dairy and wheat, then at first it will take a little while to catch up. But definitely hit me up and start asking questions, and I can start answering them for you. Because I know when you first start changing your diet like this, you're just starving all the time, and it's just because your body's not used to having things that are easy to absorb and digest. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's hard for your body to adjust to this at first, but then after like a week or 2, you're gonna feel way better, and you'll be full way faster on stuff that's not junk or inflammatory. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so that's a little bit about what I wanted to say about inflammatory foods today. I know that it can be overwhelming at first, but definitely drop all your questions down below. I had another thought about inflammatory and I was going to tell you guys, but I can't remember what it is. But I could seriously go on about inflammation for hours. So you guys let me know what questions you have and I'm happy to pop back in. And I think I'll just do a live video each day this week on the 5 topics. So the whole foods, increasing your nutrition, removing inflammatory foods we just covered now, balancing blood sugar, and then supporting organs of elimination. I can do a live video on each topic this week, so I'm happy to do that. I love talking about this stuff. I'm a total nerd when it comes to nutrition, and I did not come from this as my background. I was in corporate insurance for 10 years, and then I was a total mess, and I ended up with a naturopath finally that helped me see that I was burning myself out. My adrenals were totally shot. I was probably headed into thyroid issues. I was literally like couldn't even sleep at night because my allergy symptoms were so bad, which I don't have seasonal allergies. It was 100% food related because they were intolerances. When I went to the normal doctor and the normal allergist, they tested me for everything and nothing showed up for normal allergies. So you guys, what my biggest thing would be is just start to learn to listen to your own body, and then we can kind of go from there. So please drop your comments and your questions below and I'm happy to help. And let's have a great week. I think this week is going to be the week that we kind of set ourselves up for how we want to eat. So don't feel stressed that you don't have like a perfect diet in place or anything like that. I really wanted to just like dive into the education behind the why of all these things before we kind of start implementing these crazy eating patterns, which is normally what somebody does on a diet. But we're not doing that. We're going to talk about how we want to move forward, how we want to feel, and what might be affecting us first. Okay. So hopefully that was clear. I'm sure I went over. My videos get longer every time. Sorry, guys. But hopefully you learned something, and I look forward to your questions below. Cheers, guys.